Welcome to this recording of Pat Rodegast channeling the spirit of Emmanuel at Wainwright House in England. Subscribe to this channel and we'll let you know when we've uploaded new workshops or other materials from the Emmanuel archives. Now, enjoy this meeting with Emmanuel.
The center of your world does not exist in some vast and secret space within the center of the planet. It exists within the center of your own heart. And I say that because it is literally true. I'm not being poetic. I'm being truthful and honest. And you spend your lives seeking solace, peace, comfort, home, pretending to believe, and I say pretending in a very kind and gentle way, that somewhere beyond the true self, there is the ticket or the key or the doorway to your wholeness, your wellness, your peace, your salvation. And you are taught in some manner to doubt the integrity of your own being and to seek the mirror of other people's responses in order to validate what you hope to be true, what you have been led to believe must be true about yourselves. The journey is not a journey of error, but of good intent. You are not accidentally born, nor are you accidentally conceived, nor have you ever in your lifetimes experienced anything that was not in some manner designed by the integrity of your soul to bring you where, you say. I've walked a life that has been in some manner difficult, in some manners blessed, but where am I going? Why have I come? What am I doing here? Rather than just to believe, as the world would suppose, that the intellectual world, that is, that you've come to survive in the best possible manner and to leave to your children and your children's children, or the charity that touches your heart, the gifts that you have gathered, and therefore then leave and head towards nothing, towards heaven, whatever that may mean. But somehow that the journey upon the physical plane holds less meaning or has less blessedness about it than the journey into the realms of the divine. You have been taught to be suspect in your heart's desire and to be suspicious of what takes place within your own lives, in your own attitudes, in your own minds, most certainly in your own interpersonal and interpersonal relationships. I do not paint with a very dark brush. I believe there is great joy and light and certainly remembrance in all of you. But the distractions that exist upon your human planet are enormous, are they not? You awaken in the morning having left your bodies in sleep, wandered through your world, answering the call of love, or for some of you, when you have been ill or frightened, or when you are just very tired, you do return home. You are accompanied by angels as your body rests, and you receive, if you will, restorative tenderness and love and direction. And then you return to your physical bodies as the dawn breaks or as you awaken to the bidding of your alarm clocks. And you find yourselves hovering, but very briefly, between the world of greater reality and the world of what we in spirit call most tenderly illusion. And you find yourselves only briefly remembering who you really are and why you have really come. And then the habits of the day, the demands, the familiarity of your human world that you have constructed very carefully throughout your life take hold. And you find yourselves leading then the familiar, the normal, the physically oriented human experience. And nothing is to be perceived as wrong about this, but only to be reminded, and it is my pleasure to do so, that you are not merely human beings walking in the physical world in some strange and incomprehensible purpose, but that you are angels. You are angels of light. You are angels of eternal truth. You are angels of perfect love. That is who you really are. And you have not come because you wandered off the beaten path. You came because love called you. You came into the human world, and you have come again and again and again. Though whether that be a comforting belief or not is of no importance at the moment. And you come because somewhere in the human dilemma, in the human drama, in the human darkness of forgetting, you have the appropriate light. There is, in other words, a portion of you, angel, human, combined, that is of essential purpose to the unfolding, if you will, of the divine plan. And it isn't the you that has been prescribed by the human world. It isn't the you that was carefully developed through the imagined and very real demands of your families of choice, your country of choice, your schooling of choice. No, that is all an overlay, if you will, appropriate for the journey within the world of human forgetting, but not to be mistaken for the truth of who you really are. And the truth of who you really are is the gift. The gift that you have come to bring to this world in your own particular and unique way. And so you walk in your human personalities, and you are distracted, and you are identified by your human history, but that is not the purpose of your journey. The purpose of your journey is to, in some wondrous moment, and it need only be one, though it can be years of a lifetime, if you so choose, but in that wondrous moment to truly remember who you are, to allow the angel to be present as the human being is present. And it is possible, indeed it's essential, to have them both coexist. And so you have come to remember. And what brings you to that moment of remembering can be many things. It can be ecstasy. It can be horror. It can be suffering. It can be joy. There is no one way to enter into that point of darkness that called you. For as you understand, as you have walked in your human world, there are many, many layers of forgetting, are they not? And when I say darkness, by the way, and I want to make this very clear from the beginning, I am not speaking of evil as the world of religious concept and sometimes misconception describes it. I am speaking of the simple, holy act of forgetting your own divinity so that you can become a part of the human panorama. For if you do not wrap the gift of your light in the packaging of the human walking in the ordinary world, how can you ever reach that point of darkness that called you? What I'm saying is this, that you must be willing, and you have all been willing, or you would not have come to the human world, you would not be sitting in a human body now, you are all called to a point of darkness, not to suffer in it, not to be lost in it, but to bring the light of your remembering so that that particular point can be forever transformed back into the oneness from which you all come and to which, of course, you all inevitably return. In fact, if one were to be scientifically correct, you never leave the oneness at all. Your entire world, the entire adventure, the journey of being human is a journey into illusion. That does not, while you are sitting in the illusion, mean to say to you that you believe nothing that's happening or that you disregard your own human feelings and experiences. Not at all, quite the contrary. Knowing that the human world is not the true world, and knowing that the human personality is not the true you, does that not set you free then to live your life abundantly? And when the time comes to weep, which it must frequently in the human journey, that you weep 100%. And when the time comes to laugh, that you laugh that way as well. That you allow yourself the complete journey of being human because you know in the deeper sources of your wisdom that this is not the truth of who you are. It is an adventure. So being human is an adventure. It is not that you begin at conception and you end at death. Those are simply doorways, imaginary doorways, I might add, through which you enter into the journey and through which you exit to the greater purpose and reality of your being. And is this a sideshow? Is this a carnival, you ask? If the suffering is not to be perceived as real, how is it to be perceived? For most certainly you are all touched by the pain that exists in your human world, and why would you not be? It is the voice that called you here, is it not? I said it is the voice of love that calls you, and the mind, certainly moved by its own education, makes a distinguishing definition of the voice of love. But what is it really? The voice of love is, if you will, the constant call that you heed in your life, whether you are intellectually aware of it or not, or emotionally. It is the area within your human world that tugs at your heartstrings, and at the same time, it is the area in your world that delights your heart. For it is not only darkness wherein love is hidden, it seems. It is the entire illusion that is calling you to contribute to its transformation back into the light of home. When I say back into the light of home, does that mean that the moment that you totally remember, the moment that you totally allow the essence of your true self to merge with your human self, that in a blinding flash you will disappear from planet Earth and find yourself sitting again on some comfortable cloud in heaven, if you will? No, it does not mean that at all. Though sometimes, if that be your choice, I can think of no greater and more comfortable way to leave the planet Earth, can you? No, it means that when you bring the angel fully present, which means the truth of you in the moment of now, it is quite a simple thing, into the present moment of your human existence, that there is a barrier that is removed. A shroud is lifted, if you will. And not only do you then stand firmly upon planet Earth, but you also touch by your loving, by your open-heartedness, by your compassion, the oneness of the human family. And I want to mention to you that one of the most important things I believe, that needs to be told, that needs to be stirred into remembrance on your human planet is the oneness of the human family. You are all so cleverly adept at designing yourselves into uniqueness, are you not? Why, if you take a moment to look around this room, there are not two of you that look alike, though you all wear the same conformity, if you will, of arms and legs and head and eyes and nose and mouth. And is it not remarkable that there are no two fingerprints that are the same, exactly the same, upon planet Earth? Do you see how clever you are? Do you see how endlessly inventive angels are when they enter into this realm of creation? And it is your realm of creation. And I want to remind you of that as well. And so in the name of illusion, each one of you believe that you have to be different. You have to be unique. And that is in some manner to be seen tenderly and gently. It is to overcome the oneness that every angel knows is inviolable in its truth, so that you can be, if you will, in the adventure, in the journey of illusion. But it is time now to begin to soften that demand that you've placed upon yourselves, and rightfully so. For the world is spinning now not to its destruction. And I do wish that the voice of fear would not be so heeded, so honored in your world, but that is part of the illusion, is it not? And that is one of the things that you have come to alter by yourself remembering. No, the world is now spinning in its wondrous and magical orbit that you, with every breath, continue to create into a time of total remembering. It began as the Garden of Eden in your hearts, as you met in the world of oneness and decided to begin this adventure. Your planet will not release itself into the oneness again until it has completed the circle, until it has come back to the Garden of Eden again, which means that every human being that stands upon the planet at that moment will stand at the point of remembering, will bring angel and human together. That is why you have all come. That is why you have come time and time again, to bring the light to the area, to the arenas that have fallen so deeply into the forgetting that they have literally, it seems, fallen asleep. And then with every birthing, you bring the light. For every newborn child is clearly in the state of oneness, are they not? Those of you who have been fortunate enough to give birth or to be present at the birthing of a child have no doubt in that moment that the heavens have opened and that light and truth and perfect love have entered again. And that is who you are. You are light, you are heaven, you are perfect truth. And then, of course, as we have said, and we will probably say again and again, you've masked yourself in the honorable attempt to enter into the darkness. For again, that is the purpose of your journey, but it is not the only purpose of your journey. For now it becomes more and more apparent, does it not, that you come not only to enter into the illusion, but to bring the truth. To bring the truth of who you are, not someone else's truth, not some truth that has become an accepted philosophy, not some truth that has been formulated into a religion. The truth of who you are in this moment as you sit in this room is the same inspiration that has created all the great works of art, all the holy rememberings, all the miracles that have existed and continue to exist as the human race spirals upward into the light. You are, as you sit in this room, the creator and the created. Do take a moment to allow yourselves to realize this. I bring you no new information. I only tell you what your hearts have always known. I only remind you that what you knew as very small children is the eternal truth. But what I do come to say to you is it's safe now. It's time now to begin to allow that deep, profound remembering to become a part of your everyday life. I want to also comfort you in saying that the years that you have walked upon this planet in the darkness, in the forgetting, are not wasted years, but essential years. Every time you move into the forgetting, every time you take the hand of fear, for it becomes the same act, does it not? You are not failing, but you are moving to the design of your soul to touch that area of darkness that is called you. It can be an area outside yourself, but most probably it is the areas of forgetting that you carry within your own human journey. How many times in the last 5 days have you been frightened? Some of them so familiar, so habitual, you do not even judge it as fear. You simply say, well, that's how it is. That's who I am. And it's time again, as I remind you, to begin to hold in gentle question, not an angry question, for that only serves fear, does it not? But to hold in gentle question these times when you remove yourself from the moment of now. When you sit, perhaps, in silence when your heart wishes to speak, or you speak when you wish to remain silent. When you fall back on historic definition rather than to open to the moment, or when you leap ahead, attempting to plan an escape or an adventure, or simply a moment of understanding, which again removes you from the center of your being, from the crux of the matter, from the moment of eternity, which is always available to you in the moment of now. And so it becomes this living of a human life, not an exercise in intellectual solution to what seem to be the inevitable problems and difficulties of a human life, but it becomes, does it not, the grace of the moment. The willingness to say yes, the willingness to say yes, and the willingness to say yes again to whatever is present without judging it, labeling it, or giving it over to fear's definition. And some of you in this room have walked most courageous paths, most challenging paths, most loving paths. For when things seem to fall apart in your life, I beg you to ask what is really falling apart. And you will undoubtedly find with introspection that what is falling apart is expectation. What is falling apart is fear's demand. What is falling apart is the structure that you believed was essential to your well-being. And is that not a wondrous thing to be rid of? Oh, good, you must say, in the middle of crisis. Now illusion is crumbling. Perhaps now I will make room for truth, for the truth of who I am. For when you are living in the moment of now, there's nothing to fall apart. Have you noticed that? Those of you who have from time to time lived in that moment, there's nothing to fall apart. Eternity does not fall apart. Why? Because it's not structured to fall apart. And this might be an interesting note for you. Your human world is structured to fall apart. Don't you see? It must. I don't mean that buildings will topple. I mean that opinion, expectation, demand, fear structure is not built to survive. And that is the good news. For if it were built to survive, you would all remain imprisoned throughout an entire lifetime, would you not? And so, whatever structures you believe are essential to your sanity, your happiness, your partnership, your economic success, they are all predicated upon a very flimsy understanding of who you really are. And so I ask you now to take one thing in your life that is present, that seems to be the difficulty of the moment, the trial of the week, if you will, and that you perceive it. Just allow it to stand before you for a moment. And if there are many, choose one. And if you are in a blessed space where you seem to have nothing troubling you, then invite fear in for a moment, and I guarantee it will bring you something. And so perceive it, but perceive it not only in its familiar stance, but begin to walk around it a little bit and see what pretensions it carries with it, what false authority. Hear the voices of this circumstance that give you this very strange self-reflection. How it minimizes your greatness, how it criticizes your good intent, how no matter how minute or enormous this particular circumstance may have become in your life, how it speaks to one issue, which is that you somehow have failed, that you are not good enough, that this structure will confine you for your own good, which are certainly fear's words, not love's, or it is protecting you from exposure so that others will perceive not really all of your faults, but perhaps some will remain buried enough so that you can be safe and accepted. There is distortion in every structure that fear has created in your life. Now, you might ask, doesn't love create structure? And I hurry to assure you, no, it does not. Love creates only permission. Love has one word. It says yes. And I know the mind schooled in self-defense says that's a very dangerous word. For if you say yes to what is being inflicted upon you, then there is no means by which you can honor yourself. When I say love says only yes, I mean it says only yes to self-loving. It says only yes to the intent and the purpose of your heart, which is, of course, inevitably the intent and purpose of your soul. Love says yes, because there is no other word to be said in the moment of now, is there? If you were in this moment to be transported out of the world of illusion, there would be nothing else for you to say but yes. And within the world of illusion, when you are reaching to connect with the greater self, there is no other word to be said than yes. Not yes to outer brutality, not yes to anything that severs you from the center of your being, from the nobility of your purpose, from the much deserved loving of your world, and most certainly yourself. And so when one breathes into the moment of now and says, yes, you have placed yourself at the very center of your purpose, of your journey, and you have opened the door so that angel and human can touch. And so in the moment of yes, now look at the structure that I have asked you to remember and see what happens to it. See what, if anything, takes place. to move to yes in the moment of great fatigue or great anguish or great physical suffering is to absolutely and completely alter that circumstance. And he's saying to me, don't be afraid to use those words. They are very positive. Love does not allow for a perhaps or a maybe. Love never says yes, but, though fear inevitably says that, does it not? If fear says yes at all, it always has circumstances that release you from the yes immediately. Love does not equivocate. Love says, I'm here now. I am here now. There are three very important words. And the I is not the I of history. It is the self of eternity that you do not have to give over to intellect to describe to you, for intellect has no capacity to describe the true self to you, for intellect is a tool of the human journey. And it is not in any manner something that you hasten to gather up and bring home with you when your particular journey has been completed in this world. In fact, one of the wondrous things about, if you will, leaving the planet is the instantaneous realization that you don't have to think anymore, that you don't have to reason, that you don't have to bow to logic. Isn't that a wondrous thing to anticipate? Can you feel the weight leaving your skull even as I speak? Nothing has to be reasonable, for everything is moving to its own profound integrity within the oneness. Now, that may be a confusing statement, for I speak of oneness and the intellect immediately erases individuality. And within this oneness of which I speak and from which you come and return, I promise you that with great joy, there is both individuality, uniqueness, and oneness. And I don't hope that your mind will ever embrace that. It isn't necessary. The heart knows what I am talking about. Whenever you fall in love, and one falls in love frequently in a human life, as must be so, and one can fall in love with individuals, one can fall in love with music, with sound, with vision, with food, with anticipation of excitement, with adventure. One can fall in love with a great many things. But when one falls in love, it isn't the losing of self. It is the celebration of self within the companionship of whatever it is that has excited your self-memory. And so when you find a beloved human being and you join hands to walk upon the planet Earth with them, what you have perceived in your inner wisdom is a much more faithful mirror than what has been presented to you perhaps in the past. It is still a mirror, of course, and as some of you know through disappointing experience, that moment or those moments or days and years of love can begin to fade and illusion enter again. And that is not a time for self-recrimination or recrimination of another. It is simply the realization that love has come to walk with itself to that point. And then it has come to walk another way. To say yes to a moment of falling in love is very simple indeed. It's a compelled yes. But to say yes when love seems to want to divide and go separate ways is not such a simple thing, so it seems by intellect's evaluation. And yet, I promise you, if you move to the moment of yes, you will see yes is still yes, and you are still whole, and heaven and earth are still one. And love is still the only reality that exists, has ever existed, or will ever exist. And so you have all embarked upon most courageous journeys, and you have encountered many circumstances that have been distressful, have been disappointing, have been painful, have been frightening, have been awe-filled. You have walked the gamut of the human world. Some of you perhaps believe you have missed an experience or two, but just wait. You haven't finished yet. And that is not a threat, but a most joyous promise. For having come to this level of understanding in your life, and you are all very akin in your levels of understanding, or you would not be in this room, no matter what you believe brought you here, cynicism or curiosity or simply a willingness to say hello again to an old friend, such as myself and yourselves, you still are walking at very similar levels of remembering. And so I urge you to consider, everyone in this room, your newfound oneness, if you will, and at least for the time, the day that we spend together, that you make every attempt to erase the illusion of separation. That you are not sitting in a room with a few friends and many strangers, but you have come to a family reunion. And the family is not a family as you have known it on the physical plane, for most certainly, as you all recognize, there are great differences, seemingly so, within family members, and certainly feelings of separation. No, you've come to a holy family. And if you can practice, if you are willing to practice that sense of oneness, that sense of non-alienation, non-otherness within this room today, then perhaps that will encourage you to bring that light of remembering out onto the planet as you move through your daily routines, for it is necessary that the gift of your remembering, as I have said, becomes more to the fore in your life and in your purpose. Not only to bring you delight, which of course inevitably it must, and that is the primary purpose of human life, to remember who you are and to fall in love with yourself. Can you imagine that? To fall in love with yourself, and not to put everyone else first, but to put yourself first, not in a childish way, not in a selfish way, not in fear's way, but in love's way. For if you do not honor and love yourself, how can you honor and love another? And how can you allow them to honor and love you? It is all one thing, you see. It is all one language. It is all one experience. It is all one word, and the word is yes. And so make room for yourself in this room. Invite yourself into the physical body, the vehicle that the angel has chosen and created to walk within in this human world. Invite yourself into the porous self, the self that is not sealed off from the rest of humanity, but very much breathes in and out the same air as the rest of humanity. Invite yourself into your open and loving heart. Invite yourself into these areas of loneliness within you that you have walked with all your life. The moment of separation happens very shortly after birth. From that moment on, you walk in loneliness. Are you aware of that? That is why you reach out to others. That is why the small child is so greedy, so hungry to receive the love of the family. Most certainly, yes, the child cannot live, cannot survive physically without nurturance, but it is more than that as well. He says, thank you. It is the longing. It is the longing to break through that barrier, that awful, awful barrier of separation that must happen when you leave the oneness, or you would not remain on planet Earth at all. Oh, you might be willing to walk in a physical body, but you would not be touched By the illusion, you would not perceive the darkness. You could not. Until you receive the lens of fear, the lens of illusion, you never leave home. Are you aware of that? And when you remove the lenses of illusion that fear has taught you to wear, then you are home. Again, whether you are still in a human body or not. It is your perception. It is your belief system. It is your loyalty to your history. It is your habit of holding the hand of fear and the belief in your separateness that keeps you separate. That keeps you within the illusion, believing only in the forgetting. And so you come. You come to be reminded that the human being is not who you really are, though it is a well-designed and created costume, is it not? That you yourself have constructed moment by moment in your human journey, but it is all made of the fabric of illusion, as are all the beautiful things on your planet as well as the sad ones. A tree is an illusion. It doesn't mean that its essence is illusion. Its essence is perfect love, just as you are. The form it takes to honor your journey is a tree. And yet, remove the tree, and the love still remains. The love still remains. I want to say that to you because there is a great discrepancy in the understanding of what seems to be the terrible fate of your human planet. Fear speaks with the language of love many times. Fear says, if you chop down a tree, we will stay with this analogy a moment, but it can be applied to anything, then what you are doing is destroying the planet. Well, that depends, does it not? That depends on whether you believe the planet is constructed merely of physically materialized matter, or whether the planet has come in the name of love. Now, I do not mean to frighten you. I am not saying, therefore, the ecological movement is nonsense. It's not. But what I am saying is, hear what the voice of fear is telling you. In all circumstances, no matter how it seems to be serving the intent of love. For where there is fear, love cannot rule. Where there is love, fear cannot exist. And how do you know the difference? It's your choice. Every minute of your life, it is your choice whether to serve love or fear. Whether to say yes or no. And if you are saying yes, truly saying yes, not saying it because you think you ought to, but saying it because that is who you are and where you are in the name of truth at that moment, then don't you see the empowerment that exists within you? Don't you see that that is the voice that can part the seas, that can raise the dead, that can create again and again and again what intellect will say is an impossible miracle? Don't you know who you really are? I say you are angels, and the intellect says, oh yes, all right. I know what an angel is. It's one of those pictures with wings. It's a divine being, and I think I know what that means. But the mind cannot explain to you the truth of who you are. I do not speak to ego now, for the ego has great fear of the essence of your being. Why? Because ego will cease to exist when you touch the essence of your being, because the essence of your being and your empowerment is perfect love. And so it is absolutely, eternally trustworthy. There is nothing perfect love, the essence of you, the angel self, the remembering human being. There is nothing that essence would touch that will not move into the light. There is nothing that you would do, or that you have come to do, if you will, in the center of your remembering, is not holy work. And what does holy work mean? Well, don't ask fear, for fear will give you a most distorted aspect. Holy work is being who you are, saying yes in the moment of now, speaking truth, living truth, being present. There's nothing more holy than who you are in the center of your being as you sit in this room. No matter how you have identified yourself through the acts of your historic journey. You may have been a thief. You may have been an embezzler. You may have been a liar. You may have been a murderer. You may have done incredible acts of cruelty. And I would say to you, the essence of who you are is divinity fulfilling a divine purpose. And if you were to accept what I have just said, you must also accept the fact that you will never live with a complacent intellect again. For you will never, never pretend to know all there is to be known. You will never again formulate a firm opinion. You will never again design a plan that must be followed. You will throw away all of your rule books, all of your roadmaps, and you will simply say yes in the moment of now. Now, that does not mean that everyone in their human journey has the right to inflict pain on other human beings or to inflict pain upon themselves. Well, perhaps right is not the appropriate statement for the second half of my projection. You have the right, certainly, to make yourselves as miserable as you like. But it comes to a moment, and a moment of remembering is only required once, when that becomes unthinkable. The moment you fall in love with yourself, you fall in love with everyone else. The moment that you remember your own angelhood, you remember everyone else's. The moment you say yes to the moment of now, you are embracing your world. And then any act of unkindness becomes an impossibility. Any act that does not hold within it integrity becomes an anathema to you. Because you see, you are absolutely trustworthy within the center of your being, no matter who it is you thought you were, or who it is you thought you were supposed to be, or how it is you have lived within the demanding illusion that has created whatever circumstance you allowed to come before you when I said, think of one thing in your life at this moment that causes you pain. And ask yourself, this circumstance, would a remembering angel respond in the way that I have responded? Would a remembering angel be in this circumstance at all? And if the answer is yes, what in the next breath would be the voice of truth? What in the next breath? What in the next breath only? One cannot plan beyond the next breath. Indeed, one cannot plan the next breath, but you are using imagination now. If all things were possible in the next breath, if I really believed that I am on a divine journey, that not only have I come from the oneness, but I will return to it. If I really believed that I am holy and absolutely trustworthy in my essence, if I believed I walked with angels every minute of my life, and everyone else does too, and if I believed that in every given moment of a human life, Everyone does the very best they can in that moment. The very best they can in that moment. How then would I move in this particular circumstance? For the suppositions that I have offered you are the truth. If only you would awaken every morning, saying to yourself, I'm going to believe I am an angel today. I'm going to believe in my divinity. I'm going to believe in the holy purpose of my being absolutely human as well, for that is not a contradiction, but the essential remembering that will bring the two together is why you have come. That I will believe I walk with angels and that everyone else does. And I will believe that no matter what takes place, everyone is doing the best they can within that moment of forgetting. Can you imagine then what sort of a day you would have? And I urge you to begin now, even as you sit here, to the best of your capacity, for that's all you can ever do, is the best of your capacity at the moment, to align yourself with your own divinity. Dare to be who you really are. Dare to set aside the false beliefs that if you proclaim your divinity, that you will be tortured or burned or crucified. Dare to believe that these things have happened, but they need not happen anymore. That the earth is awakening, the world is remembering, in no small part because you have come to bring the light of your own remembering. It is a courageous act, seemingly so, within the world of illusion. It's the only reason for your being here. You didn't come to struggle. You didn't come to honor one clan or another, one nation or another, one belief system or another. You came to remember who you are. And who you are is the angel of light. And who you are is the creator that has created all of this and holds within them in this given moment the power to create heaven on earth. Do not ask fear for the design of that. Just remember moment by moment, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. With every breath you create, you cannot help it. That's who you are. That's something that you might as well accept as an inevitability for the rest of eternity. With every breath you create. Now, it is entirely up to you what you create. You can create in this moment light and love and remembering, but only for this moment. You cannot demand that it go ahead and design something to your satisfaction. Just in this moment is more than enough. Or you can take the hand of fear, believe what the lenses that fear has offered you to wear show you, and create another moment of forgetting. Either way, the plan will be perfected. Either way, all that has been physically materialized will at some point return home. But in the moment of now, you have a choice. You have a choice. And it is not a choice anyone else can assist you in making, because it is yours. Eternity lives within inside each one of you. And if in this next in-breath you choose light, you say yes, you open your heart as best you know how at this moment, you cannot imagine the miracles that take place just because of that. That your planet is lightened, that moment that could have been darkness, if you had chosen fear, is forever transformed into light. There are no adequate words to describe to you what takes place. For your language is predicated upon the limitation of intellect. And so hear with your minds, but then give it over to your intuition, to your heart, and let the true knowing become apparent to you. And do not ever again ask your heart for reason as you heed the call of love. Again, whether it be in interpersonal relationship, whether it be some simple thing like waving to a stranger across the street, or thinking some kind and loving thought of someone who is absent, or someone you've read about in the newspaper or watched on television. It doesn't matter what costume your moment of loving wears, for love in its essence wears no costume. It only matters that you say yes. And in that moment, either you believe what fear tells you, that you have just performed a foolish act, or you believe what love knows, that you have in that moment lighted the darkness, unveiled the gift, and brought angel and human together. You have all listened very patiently to what I have come to say to you. Now I'm sure some of you believe you still have some questions left. And so I urge you to patience and kindness with your human selves. Angels have no questions, human beings do. And so, whatever you believe you'd like to ask me, please do.
I hope you enjoyed this meeting with Emmanuel. Subscribe to our channel and you'll be the first to know when we upload any new materials from the Emmanuel archives.